As the UPS driver made his usual rounds one quiet afternoon, he heard a distinct thump from the back of his truck. He had been busy delivering packages around the neighborhood as he did every day, and this sound immediately made him pause. Something wasn't right. He pulled his truck over to investigate, expecting to find a loose package or a simple explanation. But when he glanced over his shoulder, what he saw left him speechless. A large dog was sitting in the back of his truck, tail wagging and eyes gleaming. The driver stared at the dog, unsure of how it had gotten there. Was this fate? He didn't know if the dog was lost, abandoned, or just mischievous, but something told him that this encounter was the start of something special. Little did he know, by the time the next day rolled around, he would have all the answers. Being a UPS delivery driver, his days were often predictable. He had a set route, delivering to the same houses on a regular basis. Over time, he had gotten to know many of the residents and even built casual friendships with them. Most people greet delivery drivers with a wave or a quick chat, but dogs? They're another story. In fact, there's a long-running stereotype that mailmen and delivery people often find themselves at odds with dogs, sometimes to comedic or chaotic results. But for this driver, bonding with a dog was the last thing he had anticipated, especially with one particular pooch that seemed determined to become his friend. That day had started like any other. He loaded his truck with packages and prepared to set out on his daily route. As he scanned the address labels, one stood out. It was a house he delivered to often, and as he recalled his previous visits there, a familiar image popped into his head. A big, friendly dog that always seemed to be waiting by the road. This wasn't unusual. In fact, he'd seen the dog many times before, just hanging around as if it didn't belong to anyone. The dog appeared well-fed and healthy, so the driver assumed it must live nearby, but he couldn't be sure. As he drove through the neighborhood, he spotted the dog again. The beautiful golden retriever was loitering near the road as usual, but this time, the dog seemed more interested in him. Undeterred, the driver parked his truck and prepared to deliver the package in hand. He stepped out of the vehicle and began walking toward the house, but he couldn't help but notice the dog approaching him as well. This was odd. He had encountered dogs barking behind fences or front doors before, but a dog walking right up to him was unusual. He felt a twinge of nervousness. What if the dog was aggressive? But the golden retriever simply wagged its tail and looked at him expectantly. It was the beginning of a friendship neither of them could have predicted. Days turned into weeks, and the driver found himself returning to the same house multiple times. Each time, the golden retriever was there, patiently waiting for him. The driver began to anticipate these encounters, and soon, he decided to bring the dog a treat. After one of his shifts, he stopped by a pet store and bought a bag of dog treats, eager to surprise the dog the next time he saw it. The next day, as expected, the dog was there, waiting for him. The driver completed his delivery, then reached into his truck for the treats. He gave the golden retriever a few and patted its head, feeling a warmth and connection he hadn't experienced before. The dog responded enthusiastically, wagging its tail and nudging the driver for more. From that day on, the driver made it a habit to bring treats for his new four-legged friend. Every delivery to that house ended with a mini celebration between man and dog. However, one day, the driver's routine was thrown off. He had been running late and rushed out of his house without grabbing any treats. As he pulled up to the house, he realized with horror that he had nothing for the dog. He hesitated, trying to avoid eye contact with the golden retriever, who was already trotting toward him, expecting the usual reward. Sheepishly, the driver delivered the package and hurried back to his truck, hoping the dog wouldn't be too disappointed. What he didn't know was that this golden retriever had plans of its own. The dog vanished from view, and the driver assumed it had wandered off, perhaps annoyed that there were no treats that day. Little did he know, the dog had found a way into the back of his truck. The driver continued with his route, unaware that the retriever was now a stowaway. As he drove to his next stop, the dog nestled in among the packages, waiting for its next adventure. It wasn't until the driver heard that unexpected thump that he realized something was off. He parked the truck and opened the back to investigate, and there, sitting proudly among the packages, was the golden retriever. The driver was shocked, but couldn't help but laugh. He had no idea how the dog had managed to sneak into his truck, but there it was, looking as innocent as ever. The driver didn't know what to do. Should he take the dog to a shelter? Return it to where he found it? After all, he still had deliveries to make, and now he had a dog along for the ride. The driver decided to finish his route with his unexpected passenger in tow. He made his next delivery, the dog sitting obediently in the truck, watching his every move. When the shift was over, he brought the dog back to the neighborhood where he had found it, figuring it must belong to someone nearby. He left the dog near the road where he had first seen it and drove off, hoping he had done the right thing. The next day at work, the driver recounted his adventure with the dog to his colleagues. They all found the story hilarious and teased him for not buying treats. But then, something unexpected happened. One of his coworkers showed him a viral post on Reddit, and the driver couldn't believe his eyes. The post featured a picture of the golden retriever with a note around its neck, and the caption read, "The UPS man forgot my cookie, so I snuck into his truck and took a ride." It turned out that the dog's owner had witnessed the entire ordeal from inside the house. When he saw his dog hop into the UPS truck, he knew it was up to its usual antics. The driver was floored. Not only had his adventure with the dog gone viral, but the owner of the golden retriever had been in on the joke the entire time. The two men finally met face to face, and the driver learned that the dog's owner had been watching their interactions from the window for weeks. The owner explained that the dog loved waiting by the road for the UPS man and eagerly anticipated the daily treats. From that day forward, the driver made sure never to forget the treats again. He and the golden retriever continued their daily tradition, solidifying a bond that had started in the most unexpected way. The viral post continued to circulate online, bringing smiles to people's faces everywhere. It was a reminder that sometimes the most ordinary days can lead to extraordinary friendships. Now, whenever the driver pulls up to that house, he knows he'll be greeted by his furry friend, and he's always prepared with a treat in hand. The golden retriever, once just a dog by the side of the road, had become more than just a routine part of his day. It had become his loyal companion, reminding him that even in the most predictable of routines, life has a way of surprising you.